Welcome to the A&A Masonry Newscast. In this newscast, we are featuring an interview with one of A&A's logistics specialists, Greg Gura. In this interview, Greg will be answering questions and discussing everything that you need to know about chimney restoration. And now here is our featured program presentation. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. And we're here with Greg Gura from A&A Masonry, who knows everything that there is to know about, the exterior products in your home and renovating the home. So Greg is going to answer some questions about important things that customers have concerns on. So welcome, Greg.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
All right. So, Greg, what is the main concern that people ask you when they're calling in with problems with their chimneys?
Well, thank you for that question, Dave. I mean, that is a common request that we get into the office where people want somebody to come in and fix their chimney, do a repair to a chimney, take a look at the chimney. Usually it is a result of somebody noticing something on the ground that has fallen off the chimney, like a spalling brick or something like that, perhaps a neighbor, or if they've had somebody up on the roof. And the interesting thing with chimneys is that they're really by themselves their own entity separate from the house itself, because once you get past the roof line, the masonry is exposed to all the elements of weather and water. And there's nothing really to protect the brick and shield it like a brick home that has a roof and an overhang, a soffit as we call it, that will manage the water from running and cascading down off the roof onto the brickwork. In a chimney, that doesn't apply. So most chimneys will experience water that is inside the chimney, and the freezing and thawing cycles that we go through in our area is what causes all the damage. And it's a slow process that happens over many years and decades. And the only solution to that, and this is what we have to go through with each request for a quote perhaps or an inspection on a chimney, is that we have to look at it as a complete rebuild from the roof line up. And we've learned that from experience. If we just do partial rebuilds, where if you just take part of the bricks that are visibly spalling and eroding, which is usually right around the top, what you find when you start to dismantle and demolish that chimney is that it starts to crumble, and there's a lot more erosion that's happening on the inside of the chimney, because you've got the flat surface around the flue, which extends above the masonry, and that holds the water in there that freezes and thaws and really causes all the destruction. So if you're just trying to remove some of that decay and then you build new masonry on top, what we call a partial rebuild, you're going to find that the new masonry and all that weight is sitting on inferior footing, which is the brick that's below. And that is also going to be compromised. So eventually down the road, say a year, 3, 5, 6 years, the erosion won't necessarily occur on the higher or the newer brick, but the brick that is below it on which we built a partial rebuild. We know this from experience because one of the owners early on in A&A's experience, we got called on a warranty issue on a chimney, and it was a partial rebuild. He went up there himself, Andy, and took a look at it. And he realized that this just is not a permanent solution. It's an inferior product that we would be offering to the public. And it's something that we just, from that point forward, we just don't do. And I always say this to customers that call in and want to figure out how can they fix or kind of repair their chimney. It's a very solid structure, but it's actually starting to crumble on itself with gravity and water. And that's why you get the spalling brick and so forth, is to, once you realize and notice that you have an issue with the chimney and you want to deal with that at some point, is to prepare and plan for it and just do it properly. The biggest part of the job in most cases with a chimney is the access, is to get up there, to do the scaffolding, do it safely, make sure everybody can work with mortars, trowels, mortar boards, bricks, and materials, and pails of debris coming up and down, and materials. That's the biggest part of it. So if you're going to go through that expense and that process, we feel it's just a far better product to just do the whole chimney from the flashing or slightly above. Sometimes when it's really bad, we have to actually go into the roof line beneath the roof itself and get a stable course or layer of brick, as we call it, a course of brick, on which to build 200 or 300 bricks on top of it. The other thing with the chimney, and this is important as well, is that it has to be, it's a freestyle masonry. In other words, we don't have strings and lines like we do when we're building up a wall of a house on which to keep a straight wall and keep everything nice and flush. On a chimney, every brick that we lay, there's a variety of ways in which that brick can be unlevel or shifting or so forth. And a lot of times when I look at rebuilds and I look up from the ground up, I can see slightly a spiral or a slight tip to the chimney. And what this causes is that when water comes off of those chimney caps, and it's not a straight line, it's like a riverbed where you have rapids where the water accelerates and decelerates. And again, that causes erosion on the surface of the brick. And sometimes as little as 2 or 3 years, we start to see those bricks on the face start to spall again. So again, the whole thing with a chimney that I advise is just to wait until you're ready to do it or deal with it, but deal with it properly. And that is to really do a complete rebuild. In other cases, and finally, when it comes to a chimney, is if it's not being used, if it's gone through its life period, you have a lot of high efficiency appliances, furnaces and gas water heaters, and they actually vent out through the side of the building. That case, we don't need the chimney anymore. We can either drop it into the attic, roof over it, and it disappears, or we can dismantle it, demolish it down to the roof line, slightly rebuild it up, and just put a cap on top of it. And essentially, that masonry will be protected just as well as the masonry, the brickwork and stonework that is below the roof line. So you never have to worry about it again. But again, the one thing that I stress to all the people that call is that when you take a look at a chimney, it just does not pay to do a temporary fix because it does not do anything other than just aesthetically look a little bit pleasing because the decay is actually happening from the inside.
Wow. Well, thanks, Greg. I mean, that's a lot
We
of
talk a lot
information.
about we talk a lot about chimneys, Dave. So
I know, I know.
you have to spend the time, and people want to understand it. But that really is it. It's again, it's always water, and it's always doing the right job.
Well, you answered almost every question that I was thinking of in that
Great,
dialogue. So, but I did
awesome,
have one other question.
sure.
Now, is there a service that you provide that will cause the chimney to last as long as possible, not likely to erode, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great point, and exactly. Typically, when you're in bygone era, a chimney would last 80 to 100 years. So you got a house that's built in the 1920s or 30s. Their chimneys are being dealt with and rebuilt. We get a lot of those that we do. And again, if it's still being used, then it has to be built to code. But one of the things that we do with the newer materials that are available that are somewhat inferior to that particular type of construction, which is solid bricks and so forth, is we have a proprietary way in which we cap the chimney where the masonry ends and the clay flue extends beyond that, which is always the original source of where water can get in with gravity because it sits on that edge. Snow sits up there. There's heat coming up from the roof line or the chimney, or the snow or ice is just melting or water itself in those fine hairline cracks. As you do a chimney cap, if you were to look at it from a bird's eye view, you could think of it as like a donut hole and the flues in the middle. So that void, we have a way in which we fill that so that it won't crack again and allow water to start the process of erosion and attacking the chimney from the inside out.
Wow, that's incredible. Well,
Yeah, it is.
that answers almost all my questions on this. Now, what would you recommend for customers that have concerns about their chimney? What should they do? As far as contacting you, and what is the process that you would do to inspect it?
Well, great. Yeah, another great question. First thing is to find out and to see if your chimney is actually being used, right? That's the first thing. And that's very helpful. The other thing is you can coordinate it with if you're getting your roof and so on and so forth. It's if you're planning, if that's coming down the pipeline of a necessary repair or replacement of a roof, it's nice to get all the masonry because it's a little bit more of aggressive construction up there, materials and so forth. Once the chimney's done, then you come in and do a nice brand new roof and everything's set. But yeah, just reach out to A&A Masonry, and a lot of times just by looking at the house, we can give you somewhat of an idea as to what those things will cost, and come out and visit with you and give you a nice firm price. But again, the whole intention is to do it properly from like a complete tear down to the roof line and then rebuild it brand new. And that way you have a brand new chimney that will last for decades or perhaps a century or more.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Greg. You've answered all the questions.
Okay.
And if anybody has any more questions, feel free to email us at anamasonry.ca. And, Greg or another logistics specialist can get back to you and give you all the answers that you need.
That's right. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thank you for tuning into our channel for this presentation. We invite you to like this video and subscribe to this channel to enjoy more renovation and restoration content to get fully informed on making your home the best that it can be.